All right, again, for the 9C videos, let's do example E. Take a look, x squared minus 7 minus 4x equals 0. You want to be careful in this situation to realize that this is not in standard form, so the minus 4x needs to go in front of the negative 7. So then we'll have A is 1, B is negative 4, and C is equal to negative 7. So when we use our quadratic formula, x is equal to the opposite of b, so it's going to be a positive 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 7, all over 2 times 1. So x is equal to 4, plus or minus the square root of 16. All right, so make sure you do your multiplication. So 4 times negative 7 is negative 28. So I get a negative times a negative is going to be positive 28. So be careful with that. All over 2. So x is equal to 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 plus 28, which is 44 over 2. We don't know what the square root of 44 is, so we'll stop and say that our answer is going to be x is equal to 4 plus the square root of 44 over 2, and x is equal to 4 minus the square root of 44 over 2. So let's skip down now and take a look at h. For h, you see we got a fraction, and truthfully, the quadratic formula will work with fractions as well, being an a b, and oops, our c needs to be moved over, doesn't it? But what we want to do instead, so I'm going to go ahead and move this over first. So we're going to add that 3 to both sides. So I get plus 3 is equal to 0. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to eliminate that fraction by multiplying through by 3 and get 4n squared plus 12n plus 9 is equal to 0. Because I'm not using a calculator, I'm going to need to do that, and I would rather work with integers than with fractions. So on this case, a is 4, b 12, and c is 9. So x is equal to the opposite of b, so negative 12, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 144, minus 4 times 9, all over 2 times 4. So that's going to give us x is equal to negative 12, plus or minus the square root of 144, subtract, and then 4 times 4 is 16, times 9 is also going to be 144, all over 2 times a, which is 8. So x is going to be equal to negative 12, plus or minus the square root of 0 over 8. And then we're going to have that x then is equal to, square root of 0 is 0, so we're going to equal to negative 12 over 8, which reduces by 4 into negative 3 over 2. So that will be our x value for that problem. So for example 2, we have a word problem. For the period from 1971 to 2001, the number of films represented by the variable y, so y is the number of films, produced in the world can be modeled by this function. Y, which is the number of films, is equal to 10x squared minus 94x plus 3900, where x is the number of years since 1971. In what year were 4,200 films produced? So we have this equation, this formula, y is equal to 10x squared minus 94x plus 3900. And we know that y represents the number of films. So here we have 4,200 films. So I'll underline this, or yeah. So that means that y is going to be equal to 4,200. So we'll put a 4,200 in here. 10x squared minus 94x plus 3,900. All right, so we're going to solve this. Obviously, you probably don't want to do it with factoring, but we need to get this in standard form, and we need to subtract our 4,200 to the side so that we have a 0. So we're going to have 0 is equal to 10x squared minus 94x, and the difference here is going to be a minus 300. We're going to use the quadratic formula. So A is 10, B is negative 94, and C is equal to negative 300. So we'll have that x is equal to the opposite of b, so it'll be a positive 94 plus or minus the square root of, oops, that's going to be big, isn't it? I'm just going to put it in parentheses. So remember, put this in parentheses when we do it. Negative 94 squared minus 4 times a, which is 10, times c, which is a negative 300. It's going to be all over 2 times a, which is 10. All right, so now we're going to use our calculators to do that, so you might want to pull your calculator out right now. All right, so to do this, we want to, we're recording? No. We want to go to our calculator, and then we're going to do a calculator. So I'm going to push here, push calculator. Oops, we want not this, but we want this. So we want to calculate what x is equal to. So we're going to do a fraction, so we're going to hit the control, and then we're going to hit the division right there so that we get a fraction. And then on top, we're going to put our 94, and we're going to do plus. Then we'll do the square root. So to get the square root, hit the control, and you see this x squared button right here, hit that, and get the square root. We need to put our negative 94 inside a parentheses. Otherwise, we're going to get the wrong answer. Then you notice I hit this square. I'm going to raise it to the second power. Bring that down, and then do minus 4. And I'm going to do times 10 this way, times negative 300 this way. And I get that. Then on the denominator, I have 2 times 10, which I'm just going to put 20 in there. And I'm going to push enter, and it's going to give me an answer. Now we want to repeat it with a minus, because that was only one of our answers. So control, fraction, do the same thing, except this time do 94 minus, and then do the square root. So control x squared, parentheses, negative 94. Probably need to do a negative down. When you do the negative, you might want to do this negative down here on bottom if you're doing it that way. 94. We're going to square it by hitting that square button. Then minus 4 times 10 times negative 300. And it's going to, again, all be over 20. And then push enter. And this time we get a negative. You can see we get a negative answer right here. So our answer is going to be 11. And we're going to round this off. It doesn't tell us to round. It says where x is the number of years. So we're coming up with that x is going to be equal to 11 point. We'll just round that off to 9 years. So really we want to have it in whole years, so we'll just do that with about, it's about equal to 12. So kind of put squiggly lines there. It's about equal to 12. So 12, it says 12 years since 1971. So we're going to take 1971, we're going to add 12 to it, and get 1983 for our answer. And that's the end, so do your video check.